It's been a long time since I've been standing in front of this room and sharing a little bit more about my story, but I am extremely grateful to be back here. So thank you, Ryan, first and foremost, for that wonderful introduction. I don't know anybody that knows me better than that and has as many fun facts that he can pull out of his hat, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. So tonight I figured that I was going to, I was asked to do a back to basics presentation, and kind of open-ended at that. So I did not want to do a presentation that you could read in any of the hundred or thousands of real estate books out there that teach you how to invest in real estate and teach you this is how you this is how you fill out a purchase and sale, and this is how you do this. So this is sort of a hodgepodge here of walking through the process of buying a deal, walking through the process of owning a piece of real estate, and some of the lessons that I've learned along the way. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into my presentation here. So this is the Real Estate Investing Back to Basics, a refresher course on the fundamentals of purchasing and owning real estate by yours truly, Matt Lefebvre. So let's start at the beginning. Who is Matt Lefebvre? So this is me. Whoop, sorry, wrong picture. This is actually me right here. This was the day that I was inducted as the New Hampshire REIA president back in 2019. I stepped out of that role at the tail end of 2022 and left the organization in Ryan's capable hands here. And that was our former president, Mr. Andre Tremblay, a good friend of mine and now completely out of the business and enjoying his retirement years. So I've been involved with the New Hampshire REIA since I was 16 years old. My mom actually drove me to my first meeting, and I very vividly remember it. We had Mr. Landlord. He was a national speaker who flew into our meeting that evening, and I loved everything he said. I loved learning about real estate. I loved this whole business. I loved the industry. Everybody was super welcoming, and I've never looked back since then. So I've been coming to these meetings for about a decade now, and I've been involved with the board for about 6 years. But as Ryan already mentioned here, I got my real estate license before I got my driver's license. So the first fun fact of the evening about me, I earned my real estate license at the age of 18. It was actually stamped on my 18th birthday, which was 3 months prior to when I got my driver's license. Long story there, but I guess it just wasn't a priority between the Eagle Scout and the real estate and everything else going on in my life. I didn't realize I needed a car. Or I didn't need a license for a car, rather. My mom was very much by my side for most of that there. So I got my real estate license at 18 years old, and I've been in the business since 2015, so my 9th year of real estate sales now. Currently, I'm the principal broker and owner of Downtown Realty. That's my own firm that I started at the tail end of 2021. Prior to that, I worked at Elm Grove Realty for about 5 years, really cut my teeth and learned the business there. And before that, for about a year and a half, I worked at Keller Williams Realty in Bedford, selling houses and working specifically on the residential side of the business, which I quickly realized was not my passion and not why I got into real estate. And it was really about the investing, about the numbers, about this side of the industry instead. This is what really got me excited. So we're a relatively small brokerage, but we practice all over New Hampshire. I specialize in investment sales, commercial leasing, and do some development work a little bit here and there. So I am past president of New Hampshire REIA, and over the course of my career, I've transacted on over $100 million worth of investment real estate. So why am I qualified to talk about back to basics in real estate investing tonight? It's because I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of deals, I've seen a lot of things happen. The market has changed drastically since 2015. It's changed drastically in the last couple of years, last couple of months. I don't even know what I'm talking about there. So there's a lot that's been going on, and I'm here to chat with you about all of it. And then last but not least, I'm actually a real estate investor myself. I don't just sell real estate, I own it too. So I do like to practice what I preach. As Ryan mentioned, I got started buying my first property at the age of 22. It was a package deal of a 2-unit and a 4-unit building from a gentleman who had had these properties for about 40 to 50 years. And following that, I bought a couple of other small properties that I turned over and flipped in that year, and eventually grew it into a real estate portfolio that I own with a business partner now. We have about 60 units across, most of our portfolio is actually in Claremont, New Hampshire. You've heard me talk about that a couple times at these meetings about buying out there. We're continuing to buy out there and continuing to grow, but I own every single one of my properties with the exception of my primary residence with a business partner. And partnerships and good business partnerships and bad business partnerships are a topic for a completely different meeting because I could talk about that for ages and ages and ages. But very interesting thing to get into. So enough about me. I can talk about me all night. Let's talk about you, and let's talk about why you are investing. So before we go through the process of actually buying a deal, analyzing it, going through the financing, going through any of that, we have to get to the root of why it is that you are buying real estate in the first place. It doesn't make sense for you to light hundreds of thousands of dollars on fire if you don't have a good plan. That would be crazy. So why are you investing in real estate? A couple of questions that you should be asking yourself. Are you doing this as a short-term or a long-term retirement plan? If you're somebody like myself and you're in your 20s, you don't have any kids, you're not married, maybe you can go out and grow a real estate portfolio a little bit more aggressively. Maybe your retirement strategy can be a little bit more risky than somebody who's in their 50s, they have a very well-established career, they have a house, they have 3 kids, they have a wife, they have 2 cars, they have a big mortgage, they have a job, they have lots of responsibilities. You have a completely different risk profile when you want to invest in real estate because you got a lot to lose. So take that into account when you are investing and thinking about why you're investing. Risk is a big part of it, and the amount of time that you have to invest is a big factor for how wealthy you will be and how successful your portfolio will go. Another point here is, are you looking to be an active investor or a passive investor? How much time do you have relative to how many dollars do you have in your bank account? If you're able to pound the phones day in and day out and write 40 offers, not in a month or a year, but a week, well, maybe in that case, you could be doing this full time, you could be getting into this, you could be trying to grow your portfolio very aggressively, whereas if you have a full-time job, you travel, and you have a lot of other life responsibilities, it might make sense to just take the very slow and boring approach of buying a small turnkey property once a year, once every other year, and growing your wealth that way. So lots of things to consider here. Does real estate offer the right return for my goals? This is an interesting question here because we're in a very, very bizarre market. We've all seen the way that interest rates have gone in the last couple of years. We've all seen the ways that things we thought were safe investments have not become safe anymore, and things we thought were risky have shot up in value beyond our wildest expectations. So does real estate offer the right returns for my goals? And similarly, is real estate too risky right now? That's something that you have to assess for yourself. If you're looking at what's a very, very low risk safe investment, look at treasury bonds. Those things are pumping out money right now. What's the going rate for T-bills? Is it 5.25, 5.5? I don't remember what they're at now. But that's basically guaranteed money. Unless the entire federal government defaults and stops paying all of its bills, which is a completely different discussion, for ever and ever, those bonds are gonna get paid, your returns are gonna get made, and if we lived in an environment where treasury bonds and bond payments were not being made, it does not matter what your piece of real estate is doing, and if it was a good market or a bad market, things are about to go sideways. So, these are all conversations and questions that you need to have, most importantly with yourself, but with your partner, with your spouse, and make sure that you know what the reasons are for why you're investing before you get into it yourself. So with that, I want to talk about the stages of buying a property. In my opinion, there's 5 different stages you can be in when you're buying a property. That is the acquisition stage, the negotiation stage, the due diligence stage, the financing stage, and last but not least, the closing stage. Now, the reason I call these stages is you can be in multiple stages at one particular moment in time. You can be in the analysis stage while you're doing your due diligence. You can be negotiating while you're still working on your financing. The only thing you can really do at the end is closing, because obviously that's the last thing that happens. But all of these other 4 stages up at the top, you're going to be constantly going through these over the course of a real estate transaction. So don't let it get into your head that, we've already negotiated the deal, I don't have to worry about anything else, I don't have to do any more negotiating because we signed the purchase and sale agreement. No, you're negotiating all the way from the first moment that you meet that seller to the day that you walk away from the closing table and beyond. Because the way that you negotiate up front is going to impact how well the other party will play with you down the road. So think about these things not as if they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Think about them as being very fluid. So to start, we're going to launch into the analysis phase. And we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive of each of these sections. After we go through the purchasing side, we're also going to get into the ownership side and kind of touch on some of that there. But first question I have for everybody, what is rule number 1 in real estate? Just shout it out if you know what it is. What's the number 1 rule in real estate?
Everything's negotiable.
Everything's negotiable. That's a pretty good rule, but not the only rule, not the number 1 rule. Anything else? Because not everything's negotiable.
Location.
Buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high. Location. Show you're getting very close there. Actually, the number 1 rule in real estate is location, location, location. It's also the top 3 rules, in fact, because it is that important. This is the one thing in real estate that you cannot change. I don't care how hard you try, you cannot physically redraw the boundary lines of the piece of land that you own and move your real estate across town. It doesn't work. I've tried it. It can't happen. So you need to make sure that when you are investing in real estate that you know very well what location you are investing in. This is a very important concept that applies across residential real estate. This applies across commercial real estate. Retailers spend millions and millions and millions of dollars every single year to have the best location in the business. McDonald's is the prime example in the world of that. They have spent so much money trying to find the most trafficked corner in every single city and every single town throughout this country and throughout the world, really. So location, location, location. I cannot stress this enough. If you're buying in a good location, even if it's a bad building, even if it has problems, the good location will carry that property through over the long term. So I cannot stress enough how important location is when it comes to analyzing a piece of real estate. But real estate location aside, I wanted to talk upon a couple of points and lessons that I have here with analyzing a piece of property. So first of all, let's talk return on investment. There's a lot of different metrics that get thrown around here. There's cap rates, there's cash on cash return, there's internal rate of return, there's just the money in, money out philosophy. There's a lot of different ways to analyze the amount of money that's coming into a property every month. And so what's important to you is make sure that you are analyzing on the level of the deal that you're doing. You do not need to go through the motions of building a 10-tab Excel model that projects out the 10-year IRR for a project if you're buying a 3-family and it's just you. That really doesn't impact you that much. You don't need to go through the process of overanalyzing something, but on the same side, you don't want to go through and just do back-of-the-napkin numbers and work on that assumption blindly. So analyzing to the level of the deal that you are doing is very important. Now, there's different levels of analysis at different stages of the deal you might do. I might do the quick mental math of, all right, does this property cash flow or is it a complete loser? Does it make no money every month or does it break even every month and with a little bit of rental adjustments, it would cash flow? If I can do the back of the envelope numbers, figure out that I'm gonna have a decent cap rate that fits my model and my metrics, well, I might at least give it a second pass. I might go see that property. I might spend some time getting into a little bit more of a sophisticated model where I'm plugging in how much I have to spend for renovations, where I think the rents are gonna go in 3 years, and actually invest some time into that analysis. So those are important pieces because you do not want to get stuck in the weeds of analyzing deals until you don't do one. That is the investor's worst nightmare, also known as analysis paralysis. What you don't want to do is convince yourself that every single deal that you look at is a bad one. Most of them are. Colin wrote 40 offers, all of which were probably good offers for him at that price, but they didn't work for the seller. So of the 40 offers that Colin wrote, I'm sure he looked at more than 40 properties.
Half of them were very stupid. Promise you.
Fair enough. So he looked at 80 properties and wrote 40 offers that were half decent. But nevertheless, don't get trapped in the analysis paralysis. Sometimes you just have to write an offer and understand that it will get rejected. In fact, it feels good after you get a few offers rejected and you keep going and you keep plugging along and finally somebody says, well, nah, I can't sell it for that price. And then you have that glimmer of hope and you go, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can write another 10 offers until we get there. But negotiation is a later stage, so we'll get to that. One other piece that I want you all to leave here with is this statement. The seller's numbers are a guideline. They're not written in stone. How many times has anybody in this room bought a piece of real estate and the numbers that the seller said, the expenses the seller said they were spending, or the rent projections that the seller said they think that they could get there, how many times were those not 100% accurate? Show of hands, anybody ever see that before? Once, twice? Wow, you guys have some really trusting sellers out there. They must have been given some good info. But sellers' numbers are a guideline. They're not always accurate, and in fact, it's unfortunate, but in this industry, a lot of these numbers are just straight up made up. So verifying the information that people are telling you is important, but also having the knowledge of, hey, does this pass the sniff test? Does it make sense that the water bill for this property was only $1,500 last year, even though I have 16 tenants in this building? Well, no, that doesn't seem right. Okay, maybe I want to dig a little bit deeper. Maybe they forgot some water bills.
Turning it off and turning it back on again.
Alrighty.